Out of every phone that I've used in 2024, the Pixel 9 Pro XL just might be my favorite. While the 15 Pro Max remained my iPhone carry throughout the year, I swapped around quite a bit on the Android side. I went from the S24 Ultra to the OnePlus 12, Pixel 8a, Z Flip 6, Z Fold 6, I even went back to my favorite from 2023, the OnePlus Open. After all of that, I've decided that the 9 Pro XL is where my SIM card will live to close out the year. I like it that much. That may not surprise you, since that same sentiment is shared by a lot of consumers out there. I would hope that I would like it a lot, because I bought this one myself, and after tax, it cost me just under $1,200. That's that $100 price bump from last year, and the base storage is still 128 gigabytes. Unreal. Thankfully, Pixel devices go on sale quite a bit, so that makes it easier to recommend. But yeah, please let this be the last year that a Pro phone starts with 128 gigabytes of storage. That's just plain goofy. 256 gigs needs to be the new minimum. Thank you. Anyway, the Pixel got a makeover and I am absolutely a fan. It's no secret what it resembles. In fact, there were some short instances early on where I kind of forgot what phone I was holding, if you catch my drift. But this is a good thing, and it works. The speakers sound good, the buttons are nice and clicky, and the haptics are elite. Just might be the best in any phone out at the moment. Everything's wrapped up in a smooth, shiny, polished aluminum frame and a frosted matte glass back. Now, the polished frame looks nice when it's clean, and the matted frame that the regular Pixel 9 has feels better, to me anyway. Would be nice if the Pros had both a matte frame and a matte back, but it is what it is. Either way, it's quality stuff, and it's the most premium looking and feeling Pixel yet. The camera module got a facelift too. It's not a visor that blends into the frame anymore, but you still get that signature Pixel look that is very easy to identify, and the phone is still stable when placed on a flat surface. Oh, and it wasn't until I started writing this video that I remembered the temperature sensor and that it can measure human temperatures now. So yeah, there's that. This is something that I wouldn't mind Google leaving out of the next Pixel. Not too sure why it's here to begin with. Now, the display is nothing short of excellent. It's super crisp, colorful, and it gets incredibly bright at 3000 nits peak. It's still got the hole punch camera cutout, but the bezels are symmetrical, which is satisfying. This panel gets the eye candy badge without question. Another plus is that Google finally made the switch to ultrasonic tech for the fingerprint scanner. Yeah, it's about time. This is the quickest and most accurate a scanner has been on a Pixel device, and it's been working great so far. It's funny, every once in a while I'll think about rear-mounted scanners and wonder what it would be like if these phones still had them. Oh well. So far, battery life has been pretty good. I could even say it's been great. Adaptive battery has done its thing and results have leveled out nicely. It's been very reliable as I'm able to clock in upwards of 8+ hours of screen on time with light to moderate use. To be safe, I'd say I average around 7 to 7.5 hours with mixed usage per charge, and up to this point, I usually end the day with around 20% left. The 5060 mAh battery provides more than enough for me to get through the day, even with heavy use, and it's been great during travel. It was very dependable on the few trips I went on with it, and I didn't run into any glaring issues. Your results may vary though, so take note of that. Oh, and side note, on those trips I also took the Pixel Buds Pro 2. Just wanted to shout these out real quick. They've been great so far. Excellent set of buds in general, but an even better pairing with the 9 Pro. I really like them. And another accessory I've been using is this little guy. This is the Rapid Magnetic Power Bank from EcoFlow. It's got a built-in two-way USB-C cable. It's got a kickstand, and since it's magnetic, it easily connects to compatible devices and accessories. It's Qi 2 certified, meaning it can wirelessly charge at 15 watts, and it's got charging pass-through, so when I'm on the go, I can charge my phone at up to 30 watts, I can wirelessly charge my earbuds, and the power bank itself just like this. It uses EcoFlow's Xtreme technology and it's Power Delivery 3.0 compatible, allowing it to charge and recharge very quickly. It can juice up an iPhone at its max 27 watt speed. It can charge headphones, tablets, gaming handhelds, and I've even used it to give my laptop a little boost here and there. The power bank itself recharges at up to 65 watts and it can go from 0 to 70% in just over half an hour. It's got a premium build, it's got a sleek design, especially with these LED indicators. The kickstand is sturdy and the magnets are strong. It's a small power bank, but it packs a serious punch. Check it out using the very first link in the description, and a huge thanks to EcoFlow for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now, speaking of charging, the 9 Pro XL got a bump up from 30 watt to 37 watt wired charging. It's still not where I would like for it to be. I haven't had any actual problems with it, to be fair. It's still good enough for a 70% charge in around half an hour, which gets the job done. But for an $1,100 phone, was 65 watts really not achievable? That's not too much to ask for, is it? Oh well, maybe next year. Day-to-day performance is always a big talking point when it comes to these Pixel devices and their Tensor processors. The Tensor G4 isn't a huge leap from the G3 in terms of raw power, so it still isn't impressive on paper, but truth be told, I don't really care for benchmarks, and I haven't had any difficulties with this processor in my 4 months using this phone. I will say though that signs are pointing to the next Pixel lineup getting a higher end TSMC 3nm process-based chip, which would greatly improve the performance. So there's that, but for now, everything here is snappy and fluid with clean animations. The overall UX is, dare I say, straight butter. OG viewers will remember that saying. I do think some work could be done to add some more nice animations here and there. And another quick side note, Google, y'all gotta do something about these devs, man. Get on them to update their apps so that they can be themed properly. I mean, come on. Really? Performance has been good. To be fair, I'm not pushing its limits, running high-octane games or anything like that, but tests have shown that this phone is capable of running high-end games just fine without overheating. Either way, it's clear that the priorities with this chipset are AI and power efficiency with a new neural processing unit and extra RAM, some of which is dedicated to that AI. And now that we're on that topic, let's talk AI for a bit, shall we? I'm not going to cover everything in this video, but a few highlights include the new Pixel Studio app. I don't really use this, but it does in fact do what it sets out to. You feed it a text prompt and it spits out an AI generated image. It does a decent job. The Screenshots app is an interesting addition, and its usefulness I feel depends on the user. For me, I'm kind of in the middle. I can absolutely live without it, but since it's here, I've found it to be kind of useful for keeping track of links to web pages I want to access and refer to later. Video Boost appears to work well, though I haven't used it much. I do plan on giving it more tries moving forward. I don't talk on the phone much these days, but Call Notes is a genuinely useful feature. Essentially, it records phone calls, then transcribes and summarizes them, giving you the most important points or notes from that call. I did test it on another Pixel 9 and it worked pretty well. The Add Me feature in the camera works pretty well too, provided you have good lighting and some patience. It's something that I hope they continue to work on because I do feel it's a thoughtful and useful feature. Photo Reimagine has been fun to mess around with. I also don't use this super often, but every once in a while I'll poke around and see what it can come up with, and it's cooked up some fun results so far, I can't lie. And then there's Gemini. Talk about a new era. Google's Gemini? I have fun making videos, man. Google's Gemini AI really is taking over the Pixel. It's the new default assistant and it's in the boot up animation. Anyway, Gemini has been working well and it certainly wipes the floor with Siri in its current state, but we'll see how the new Siri stacks up in a few months.
What day is Christmas on this year? Okay, don't want to just give me the answer. That's totally fine. What day is Christmas on this year?
This year, Christmas is on Wednesday, December 25th.
Exactly what I was looking for.
Gemini Live, which is free now, by the way, thumbs up for that, has been fun to mess around with. It's a full-on conversational mode that can keep track of whatever interactions you have with it for future reference. It is an eerily smooth and natural process that has been fascinating to use. But here's the thing. Gemini isn't unique to Pixel devices. It's accessible on pretty much every other Android phone out there, and it just recently made its way over to the iPhone, Gemini Live, extensions, and all. So that kind of kills my Gemini takeover theory, where Google, notorious for killing off products, lays the Pixel name to rest and replaces it with Gemini, creating the all-new Gemini phone. Not bad. Please don't get any ideas, Google. Anyway, jokes aside, it'll be interesting to see new updates for Gemini and how it'll improve over time. Now, what can I say about the Pixel cameras that you don't already know? The reputation was built and solidified a long time ago. This here is an imperfect yet exceptional camera system. As I'm sure you can imagine, and now see on the screen, photos are sharp and detailed with good color reproduction and dynamic range. The image processing isn't going to be to everyone's liking, understandably so. It can get pretty aggressive, but the hardware and software work in tandem to put together one of my favorite quick trigger, ready to share photo snapping experiences. The ultra wide and selfie cameras got upgraded. I don't take selfies, but this is definitely a significant improvement, so thumbs up for that. The iPhone may still be the king of video capture quality, but the Pixel ain't no slouch. It too records good quality video with impressive stabilization. Zoom shots are impressive too. I went to a Mavs game, sat in the 200 section, which is a decent distance away from the court, and no problem. I was able to get some pretty nice results from all the way up here. Not that I needed to zoom in for Victor Wembanyama, dude is like 7'5". Now what I'm really gonna need Google to do is improve the fluidity of switching between lenses. It's kind of crazy that this hasn't been addressed yet. When zooming in, things get janky and choppy and it doesn't look too hot. Also, edge detection in portrait mode shots needs some fine tuning as well, and there were a few low light shots that had a bit too much noise for my taste. All in all though, I really like this camera setup and I enjoy what I've gotten with it so far. While market share isn't exactly where Google would want it to be, I do see Pixel users out there more and more often as time goes on, and whenever I do, I may have a tendency to ask owners how they like their phone. In fact, just over a week after this phone's launch, I was on a flight, and the gentleman sitting next to me whipped out a brand new Pixel 9 Pro XL. I couldn't help myself, so I asked him about it and he lit up and raved about it. He said he was so done with iPhones, and when I asked if he'd ever go back, he said, No, I don't think I will, but in a much more boisterous manner with a few scoffs sprinkled on top. It was great. To many, the Pixel 9 Pro XL is the phone of the year, and I get that. Like I said, this is probably my favorite phone that I've used this year. But as far as who wears that crown for being phone of the year, the S24 Ultra certainly has something to say about that, and the OnePlus 12, a somewhat forgotten beast, is a crazy good option at under $800 on sale. And on top of all of this, there are phones out there that aren't so easily accessible here in the States that could easily take that crown as well. Overall though, this is the easiest set of Android phones to recommend in my eyes. Yes, even with that stinky $100 price bump. Ugh, I gotta give credit where it's due. Google got a lot right with this thing and the Pixel 9 series as a whole. The refinements speak volumes, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the XL. And I have got to try the smaller 9 Pro. I'm kind of wondering why I didn't start with that one. I know I'll love it. Anyway, all of this has me excited for what Google's got in store in 2025. Let me know what you think of Google's entries for 2024, and let's talk about them. Thanks for sticking around to this point of the video. You are awesome, and you know what to do. Drop a potato in the comments if you're part of the potato gang, and thank you so much for watching.